Right, how's that? Yeah, there we go. There we
Yeah,
go.
that's perfect.
That's much better. So I was just saying that the things that you do, what's so admirable about it is that what you're doing doesn't benefit you at all, really. Matter of fact, you put yourself in harm's way pretty much for other people, and you don't really find people doing that these days.
It's funny to hear that because I gotta be real. Like, I've never felt, I'm so thankful. It's like in a weird way, I feel like I found my purpose to help people, right? And I'm so thankful that I have this like vision and path and like thing that I'm able to do it with, right?
Right,
Throughout my whole life, I've always felt good helping people. I've always wanted to help homeless. I've always wanted to, if I see some weird shit, I'll go over there, help out if I can. Some guy's motorbike's down, I'll stop my car, help him pick it up. You know, I'm so thankful to have this like community and it be so narrow and like beneficial to so many people because it's not something I would have necessarily expected. For me, it's like helping just one person in 1 second is totally cool, right? So it's not like I'm being I just don't want. I feel good. Like it's such a positive thing, and I never would have expected it to be grow like this and be so widespread and reach so many people. To be honest, but
right,
it's like I don't even think of it. I really don't think I think of it in like, oh, I'm just because when you say like I get nothing out of it, I really do get something out of it. It's like better than money, you know? It's not
right, right,
I've
right,
made money and I've never felt good for more money because I'll think of the impact. What how am I making the money? Where's it coming from? What's happening because of the money I'm making? With this, like if I get some positive love or whatever, I see some positive change or something able to happen, like that's what fuels me and feeds my soul. You know what I mean?
right, right, right. That sounds like you've really found your calling.
I found my calling. So I just feel
Yeah.
so thankful for that, you know, and that people appreciate it essentially, right?
Man, I'm all the way across the country in DC, so you know, that's how far-reaching, and I'm sure even farther. Um, that's how far-reaching that your actions are reaching. You know what I mean? Like it really is impactful, and it's a domino effect. You know what I mean? You are causing people to think differently again because of who you are and the message that you're putting out there and the person that it's coming from. And a lot of times we can all have this same similar message, but where it's coming from really matters. It becomes more effective when it comes from the right person. And for what you're doing, you're the right person to be effective. So that's really like
Damn. That means a
awesome.
lot. No, I
No.
appreciate that.
So really, so what my question was, and I don't mean to cut you off. So what my question was, and I'm really truly interested in knowing what was the first thing that caused you to sort of go down this road that you are now. And I know, helping people and helping society is always something that's
Yeah.
been inside of you. But like, what caused, like, what type of event happened, or was
Yeah.
there a situation, or like what is the very first time where you were just like, no, I got to do something about this.
So it's not one event to be honest, but I'll break it down. So basically, just growing up, my dad really always taught me to hold people accountable. Could be a company, it could be a teacher, it could be a police officer. My dad's a lawyer, he taught law school. Like he would bring me to the courthouse, I was always listening. I always grew up just like not caring who you are. If you do wrong, there's actions to take, right? And that's why we're so thankful to be in America. We have constitution, we have laws, we have a process. If it doesn't matter, like I said, if you're the teacher, when I'm in high school and I went home and said, hey, a parent or a teacher did this, he's like, no, we're going back to the school. If I went to a company and a company screwed me over, him and I would go back to Chuck E. Cheese and be like, we need the manager. This is what you told him? Like literally, like we would do that. And so that's one just part of it of like who I am, of like not caring who it is. You do wrong, we're gonna handle it, right? I look at police as like that authority figure though, that's the most detrimental to people that need to make sure that they're held accountable and have like the highest standard of code and ethics and transparency, right? So that's just one whole part. So then the second part is I was at San Diego State, and I was basically, I've had my share fare with police, you know, this random little stuff. I got curfew tickets back in the day, all, you know, little things. And then I'm at San Diego State. I'm at a party and the house cops come in, you know, uninvited, no warrant, no nothing. They single me out and they're like, hey, you've been drinking? And at the time I'm 18 years old. So I'm at a party with tons of alcohol and I'm under 21. So this officer's yelling at me. He's making me do field sobriety tests. At that point, I'm like, oh, fuck, I really was scared. I'm scared of the police, right? I'm scared of anyone with a, like, gun, to be honest, right? So I remember I'm doing the test, and he's like, you failed. He's screaming at me, you failed. You aren't passing this. I'm like, so I pull out my phone while he's yelling at me, and I start calling my head. He's like, no, put your phone away. I remember I hit my dad. I hit my dad's number. I hit send, and I threw my phone to my buddy. I'm like, yo, that's going to be my dad. Like, tell him I'm failing these tests, but I've done nothing wrong, right? So all these cops surround me. They escort me out of the party. We walk down like a dark parking lot. Man, I was like, truthfully, really scared. And we end up going to the back of their car. I blow in this machine. I blow a 0.00. I blow it twice. And like, after that, and then they let me go back in the party. When I get back in the party, everyone's like, what the fuck? Like, how are you back in here? Like, oh my God. But that really affected me. And it made me realize that, like, damn, I do not know what I had to do. I didn't know what I should do. It felt really uncomfortable, the whole situation. And then the second part of that is this is literally, I'm watching the news, okay? And there's a news report. I'm in San Diego. I went to San Diego State. There's a news report that says that they're towing, it was like an investigative report. And it talked about how the checkpoints were being used, DUI checkpoints, which I think are unconstitutional, right? So I think if you drive on a road, you should never have to go to a stop and then police shining a light in your eye saying where you're going, where you've been, and how much have you had to drink, right? I believe that's unconstitutional. So do many states, but in California, they exist. This news investigative report shared that the checkpoints in the cities of Chula Vista and Escondido in San Diego were being used to target minorities and tow unlicensed drivers. So they would set up a DUI checkpoint. They would have 0 DUI arrests, but they would tow 40 cars of unlicensed drivers. And what the report found out is that the tow truck companies were paying the police departments 6 digits a year to set these up, okay? So to me, I'm like, oh my God, this is so wrong. That really like bothered me so much. I even went to the checkpoint with a sign, okay, that said checkpoint ahead. There was no bar, there was no nightclubs in sight. This was straight up like a residential area. And so I'm like, and part of the checkpoints, when I started I just started researching right then and there, part of the checkpoints, the point is to be publicized. It's to have advanced publicity and say, hey, there's a checkpoint tonight, be safe, be responsible, don't drink and drive. Well, all the checkpoints in San Diego are undisclosed. They never release any locations, all right? In Los Angeles and other cities and counties, I actually get the info ahead of time. But San Diego specifically, 0 information. And so I'm like, you know what? It was 2011, July, right? So I'm like, I'm going to start tweeting these DUI checkpoints. And I come up with the name MrCheckpoint. And that was it. Just Twitter account, tweeting them. And it just grew in so many ways from there. You know, I in 2013, I got pulled over for a DUI. And the officer's like, will you follow my finger? Again, I know the law at that point. So I say, no, I'm not going to. Well, he ends up taking me out of the car. And I was recording the stop with my phone. But I don't know how I started like always recording, but basically I just didn't trust that they would say what actually happened. So I'm always recording. Anytime I get any ticket, I'm always recording. And so with that particular, and most of the times I delete it. Like there's no footage worth sharing.
Right.
It's pointless.
Right.
No problem. But that particular night I'm recording, officer makes me step out of the car. Anyways, I spend the night in jail. They tow my car. My dogs that were with me went to the pound. And this was 2 years, 12, 13, 2 years after I started the service. You know what I mean? But after spending a night in jail for something I didn't do, I thought I was gonna blow because he kept saying I'm drunk driving, drunk driving. The thing is, they found oxycodone in my car, the pills, which were prescribed to me, like totally legit
Okay.
prescription. And so while he's waiting for the patrol car, because he was a motorcycle cop, he finds the pills and then he changes in his police report. Oh, I think this kid's on oxycodone, right? So when he says that, I have to go to the hospital. They take my blood, and then I spend the night in jail. When the whole time I'm like, look, if I deny the field sobriety test and you think I'm drunk, I'm gonna blow and go home. Like that was my thought.
Right.
But that definitely did not happen. I was able to use that footage to sue the Santa Monica Police Department 3
Right.
years after I went settlement of 70,000. That made me like so much more gun ho on like we all need to
Yeah.
film the police.
Right.
And I'm very aware that when I get pulled over, I'm treated very differently most of the time than when you're pulled over. Okay,
Right.
that's
Right.
no doubt to me at all. You know, I have many friends, their stories, oh, your taillight's out, no taillight's out, right? Like I had a buddy, a black friend and a white friend. The white friend took his mom's car out, okay? He was under 16. The cops pull him over. They took the black passenger to the station. The kid driving, nothing happened to him.
Wow.
You know, so like I grew up hearing these stories and knowing like
Right.
these realities where I'm like, fuck, for me, I feel like I'm treated like a minority when I start exercising my right with the police.
Right.
Right,
Right. Right.
then they're treating me this way in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And yeah, I think it grew in so many ways. Like police supported some police stations support what I'm doing because they're like, oh, thank you, Mr. Checkpoint. Publicizing checkpoints helps deter drunk driving. I've hooked up tens of thousands of people with the app Uber and Lyft, right, for free rides home from the Checkpoint app or from my social media. So yeah, it's just been that. That's pretty much the whole kit and caboodle. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, it totally does. And let me tell you, it makes a lot more sense than you think it does. Um, you said your dad was an attorney, is an attorney?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that's sort of where, let me just tell you, that's your foundation for everything. You
It
know what I
is.
mean? It certainly is because I've been working in law firms for the last 13 years. And so in like, they're called AM 100 firms, which are the top 100 in the world. And
Mm,
so I've really been exposed, and I'm an IT engineer. And so I have really been exposed to the law and the ways of attorneys and lawyers when it comes to rights and dealing with public servants and different systems and companies. Just like you were saying, your dad is holding people accountable, holding companies accountable. That's what attorneys do, really. And so that's where that whole foundation comes from, really. That's why you feel comfortable doing what you do because you actually truly believe in it because it was what was drilled into you growing up. So this thing isn't an act. You aren't doing it for any reason really. You're doing it because like most attorneys, most lawyers, they're doing it because they genuinely believe in what they're fighting for. And so,
right.
no, it totally makes sense that the son of an attorney would, you know, be doing the things that you're doing. I mean, it's great that you've chosen this format, because again, it's very, very helpful. And like you understand, and what I was getting at before, this message and these acts coming from you would be totally different coming from someone like me, who I would want to do the exact same thing. I have done similar things, but again, it's not as effective, and it's unfortunately a little bit more risky for me,
Oh,
you know.
I firmly believe, and this like hurts my heart to think and believe this, but like, yeah, I think if I was black, I would have been killed by now if I did exactly what I've done. Like they've killed for way less. You know what? I've gone in my pocket and pulled out my phone. Boom, 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 boom. You know, like
Right.
no question. So I'm very aware of that, and I guess, yeah, I'm son of an attorney. Like and yeah, this is really like since 2011. It's been just like not, I guess, hobby or passion project type thing. You know, I'm really like an entrepreneur, so I've made money other ways. I've
Mm.
managed social media influencers. I've negotiated brands between, social media people and deals between social media people and brands, and like worked with the biggest companies in the world. And I've sold products through these influencers where we set up e-commerce stores and selling
Right.
6 digits of product, and
Okay.
real business. And I was putting that money I'm making into this. Like anytime there's a bill for Checkpoint, oh, I need a new website. Oh, I'm sending text messages. I was sending text messages. It was costing me at some point, honestly, $3,000 a month. And
Wow.
like that's real. I've put over 6 digits of my own money into MrCheckpoint over the course since 2011. It's my goal to be able to like make it, I don't want to say a business, right? But make it a situation. That's why I have the thing where people can contribute $1 a month, right? If I had that set up where it's like small percentage of my following is giving $1 a month, right? Dude, I would be doing this. It would reconfirm like this path. You know what I'm saying? And it's
Right.
not there
Right. Right.
yet, but that's totally like my goal and vision to, because I wasn't fulfilled making more money selling. I was going downtown LA, buying junk, marking it up 12 times, selling it because social media influencers are wearing it. I'm thinking, where's this stuff being made? Who's making it? What's the impact? These people are getting ripped off because they think some fashion blogger is wearing it. And to me, it's like that's all bullshit. And I never actually felt good, even though I was making more money. So yeah, that's the reason and the goal.
That's cool, man. Like I said, it makes total sense to me now. Like I said, I've been around attorneys for 13 years, and these are like 90% Ivy League attorneys. So it's just like the cream of the crop, really. And
Oh,
they're no nonsense, and they're hard charging, and they hold everything accountable. Hold everyone accountable. And so, like I said, now it totally makes sense. The last thing that I would like to ask, because it's probably the very first thing that I sort of thought of when I sort of stumbled on your site, on your page, was how great it would be if there was a Mr. Checkpoint in every city. I mean, it's nice. I love the fact that you're doing it in California, and I get the good, warm fuzzies when I see, you posted stuff in San Diego, this and that. But it's like, how great would it be if there was a Mr. Checkpoint in every major city? Like starting in every major city. Um, or what are your plans to expand your, not necessarily your brand, I mean your brand also, but to expand your service, really,
right,
because
right,
it's really valuable where you're doing it, but I mean it's a service that's needed everywhere.
right. So yeah, no, that's a good point. So first of all, I'm in Bali right now in Indonesia.
Okay.
Like to be honest, feel more comfortable exposing bad cops from here, whether it's from in LA where I'm from or anywhere else in the country, than being here. Okay, so that's like one. As far as like how to grow it, I mean, there's two things. So one is, and I guess this is more of the brand side, but my
Hmm.
thought and vision is, again, with enough support, it's to really like, because I have an app. It's very simple. It just publishes the DUI checkpoints in your area, and it is
Okay.
nationwide. So
Oh,
Miami,
okay.
in different places. But the goal is to really take down that app, relaunch another app that essentially would allow you to do what I do in real time. So you could
Right.
stream the cops right from the phone. It will know where you are and know your rights. And I think the one thing is, yeah, I'm from a family of attorneys, and I think I have the one benefit I think I have is I'm able to convey and explain the law in simpler ways than if I call an attorney and say, hey, am I allowed to do
Yep.
this or not? I have to ask 100 times, right? I just have the benefit. It's like to ask my dad or my brother or
Right.
right
Right.
people in my close circle. So I can ask them 1,000 times and they don't charge me or get mad at me, right?
Right. Right. Right.
So I think the idea is, yeah, again, technology slash app that allows you to report police presence anywhere, allows people kind of like Waze, but the
Yep.
difference in Waze is you always need to know. No one uses Waze when they're just on the street. You only use Waze if you don't know where you're going, essentially, right? So it's like a Waze, but just for everyday kind of police situation life, telling you where, yeah, again, telling you your rights in those areas, and then allowing you to kind of stream and upload this content and info to the app. I also like have a cop review section, so like you can upload situations, pictures, videos of a cop, and then we can rate them like Yelp, right? Like we rate our
Right.
restaurants and our Uber drivers. Why don't we rate our police? It should all be transparent in a third-party database, right? It shouldn't be owned by government. Like it should be all just public and keeps getting more
Right.
information, more accurate. Um, and lastly, a lot of people say the exact thing you said. Hey, or they say to me, "Hey, I'm from Texas and I want to do this." I don't know. Like it's a bit tricky for me to give this like roadmap. Like I wish it was simple. Like I could send them a packet, right? Or like
Right.
no, really. Like, and I'm trying to develop and think of this. The laws do differ so much in these
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
places, and the situation is, I just say to people like, look, at the end of the day, check to make sure your local law allows, but you can record police when they're in uniform. There's some states though that don't allow you to film cops unless they know. And there's only a few of them. So I'm just cautious on how I
Ah,
suggest to people what I would do.
got you.
But if you're in a state that allows you to film cops without them knowing, I would simply just say, look, anytime you're pulled over, you always record. And if you have time, I'm someone that like, if I have a meeting at 6:15 p.m., let's say, I'm going to leave the house at like 4 and get there like an hour early. I don't know. That's just me. So for me, when I'm driving around, or if I'm on the way home, let's say, with nothing to do, and I see someone pulled over, especially minorities, because I know they're most affected in these scenarios.
Right.
Truthfully, I did all the time, pull over, I get out my phone and I just stand there like on the curb. There has been times I've gotten chatty and been like, why you pull them over? And that's putting me at risk because then I'm interrupting an investigation and I'm
Right. Right.
delaying this and I'm doing that. So that's not, I don't suggest doing that. But simply put, if you see the cops and you just start recording, I really think that's the number one thing to slowly make the movement grow without me talking about the brand or MrCheckpoint or
Right.
anything.
Right. Right. Right.
It's just, I think really at the end of the day, just always filming the police. So I'm always writing, we know what FTP typically stands for, right? Fuck the police. I'm trying to change it. AFTP, always film the police, right? And so, like, if we can just, instead of just saying fuck them, that doesn't do anything, whether you
No.
think
Right.
that's
Right. Right.
true or
Right.
not. I'm into things being effective, right? So I'm
No,
trying
for
to
sure.
filming police, I think, is the best way. Learning, if you're in a different state, just people say, how do I learn the law? I am fortunate. I do have the attorneys, but at the end of the day, I use Google a lot. I
Right.
find
Right.
legitimate websites. I find law firms who are putting out free content, right, for their SEO and stuff. And I read it, and I have to read it 100 times to understand.
Right. Right.
Um, but I think that's slowly the process of just like informing yourself and then building that transparency in the community.
Yeah, I love that film, The Police from FTP. That is pretty effective. People are sort of pretty short-minded when it comes to things, and so you have to have like really effective marketing, really, and that's like
I think
amazing,
that's
really.
cool. Yeah, I mean, I tried to put FTP. I was gonna do like T-shirts and hats, but the thing is, there's a company that owns the trademark FTP. So I'm working on just like hashtag AFTP,
Right, right.
and then it's just always film the police. And
Yeah,
people can interpret it, but at least it's that message going out in that way.
no doubt, no doubt,
So,
man. Man, I really appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions and stuff. Because seriously, like this is stuff that has like been killing me every time I see a post. I'm like, man, I wonder what got him started. I'd like to talk to him and just tell him, like, man, what you're doing is just great. It's not for you. This is for everyone else, and it's a wave. You know what I mean? It really is a wave right now. And it's perfect timing. Timing means everything, and like this day and age, before 10 years ago, something like this wouldn't be as effective or receptive in society. But right now, this is like what society needs. This is what people crave for. And, it's pretty impressive. Like I said, what you do is pretty ballsy, number one, because, you put yourself, even as a white male, you still put yourself in a situation where you could come out on the unfavorable end of a situation.
yeah, I mean,
So
I get weird messages all the time.
I'm sure, I'm sure.
There's definitely people and family members of police that don't like
Yep,
me, whether no matter my color, it's because of what I'm sharing,
man.
and
You know what? And that's pretty cool. You know what? Because the last thing that I want to say before I leave is that I'm actually, my family is a pretty big law enforcement family.
mm,
My brothers are both law enforcement, and my daughter is law enforcement. So besides the fact that you're doing great things, you also have support from law enforcement families. Just like you were saying that a lot of law enforcement families might not like it, but I'm here to
I
let you know that,
appreciate that.
yeah, a lot of them do, and so
I
we can have this
appreciate that.
conversation even though I have a very close relationship, obviously, with law enforcement. It's still great to see like this type of service being done for the public. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so, like, don't ever get it confused. Don't let them confuse you to think that you aren't getting support from those in the law enforcement community. Because I want my daughter to be held accountable. I want my brothers to be held accountable, and they want themselves to be held accountable. More
Any
importantly,
good
they want
officer would, because that's
would,
the
right?
point. Like, it's only a certain type, and those unfortunately make the most chaos. That's the reality.
Right,
There might not be the most of them, but they're causing the absolutely the most harm, and it's
right.
unimaginable harm of we live in a free country and people are in cells and getting the shit beaten out of them for something that should have never happened. I mean, that's the ultimate gang in the sad, or the ultimate thug in the saddest way of locking people up basically for nothing,
You're
because
absolutely right.
whatever the reason. So I really appreciate your question and your support, man. Really.
Nah, no problem, man. No problem at all. Keep doing what you do, Mr. Checkpoint, and I
Yeah,
will check in later, man.
sounds good. I look forward to speaking to you again.
All right.
Peace,
Have a
bro.
good one.
Thank you. You too. Well, that was it. I hope you all